We are moving away from Toronto, and in this video we will share 5 reasons why the city is not the best place for the next stage of our life.
Let us give you a bit of context first. Both of us have lived in Toronto for about 3 years now, mostly about downtown area. We went through pandemic in Toronto and saw the city in different shapes and state.
All things aside, these have been the best years of our lives, and we've sincerely enjoyed our life here.
I came to Canada 4 years ago, and the first year I lived in a small town called Chatham with a population of just 100,000 people. It's about 3 hours southeast by train from Toronto. And I'm originally from a Siberian city with a population of 800,000 people. And coming to Toronto was really exciting to me, as I dreamt of living in this huge megapolis. And I remember having a wallpaper with Toronto skyline on my desktop when preparing for my immigration for Canada. Well, for visualization purposes, you know. And when I spent 1 year in Chatham, I was really eager to get back to civilization and was really excited about coming back to Toronto.
And I came to Toronto for a job offer and overall career growth, after living in Montreal for 10 years. I personally come from a city with over 5 million in population, so Montreal has always felt too small for me. And I always had this attraction to Toronto. It felt prettier, bigger, more successful, maybe because of the Lake Ontario or maybe the beautiful skylines. It just always felt like a land of infinite opportunity in my specific field of work. And now, after 3 years in Toronto, we're certain that we will not stay here.
And here is why. Toronto is the biggest city in Canada, with thousands of immigrants and migrants moving to the city every year. It's also the financial, technological, and whatever you name it center of Canada, so the pressure for housing is high. You've gotta build a lot of buildings fast to keep up with demand, and that creates a lot of challenges. We will not focus too much on the housing crisis. I'm sure you've heard about it, and you've heard about crazy prices in Toronto. But what really turns us off about Toronto is the quality of the apartments. So when you start thinking about buying a home as an investment for the future, it really hurts to pay millions of dollars for a subpar living space. And here's where it shows the most. First of all, it's building materials. To keep up with demand of construction, it feels like many builders are simply cutting corners and buying cheaper materials and are just being sloppy, it feels. We've lived in 5 different apartments in the last 3 years, and we moved every year because, first of all, the sound isolation was terrible and you could hear your neighbor doing their midnight business in the bathroom, and secondly, the heating and air conditioning was just poorly designed. For example, in the previous apartment, the furnace was just too large for the square footage, so it was so strong for the space that the temperature would either be too cold or too hot. No middle ground. Moreover, it sounded like a plane taking off. Our current apartment is finally a unit that is actually well designed, but it was not easy to find it, and the AC unit in the living room is still on the louder side, so we close doors to bedrooms when we go to sleep. Another thing is layout. All apartments look the same. They have the same layout and use the same type of cheap materials, and oftentimes the layout is highly inconvenient, like having a column in the middle of your living room or a corridor that is a complete waste of space. Not to mention those 2-bedroom apartments where the second bedroom can't even properly fit a queen bed and has a glass sliding door that provides zero sound insulation. And then there is size issue, because land in the city is limited and many apartments are pretty much shoeboxes, so small that it's just impossible to do anything in there apart from sleeping and showering. It's just not worth the crazy price. But wait, you might say, what about older buildings then? And yes, older buildings have better layouts, sometimes more space, but they oftentimes don't have AC and washer and dryer in the unit, so you will be installing a window AC, which is very loud and inconvenient, and you will be doing laundry in a common laundry room. You will have to pay for each cycle of washing your clothes. And if you're wondering, no, prices for older units are not necessarily lower than for new apartments.
One of our biggest pet peeves about Toronto is the amount of noise. Whoever decided to build a highway passing through downtown Toronto above ground must have been drunk or on drugs or just careless. It's the worst decision a city builder can make. The highway passing through the heart of the city creates a lot of dust and noise, and the glass buildings that surround it just amplify the noise. It doesn't help that the train tracks also pass through downtown, adding to the mixture of the noise. Luckily, some sections of train tracks in core downtown are planned to be covered by a dome to reduce the noise and pollution. Oh, and that's not all. You also have a small airport right in the heart of the city center, Billy Bishop, so add the planes and the helicopters blending to the mix. The sky above Toronto is very busy. And I'm not finished yet. With a bigger population, more things are bound to happen. So ambulance sirens and fire truck alarms is a common audio experience in many parts of central Toronto. And it's not just that there are many cases that these fire trucks go after. Most of the time, those are kitchen fire alarms that go off because someone decided to smoke some green stuff or cook for the first time without proper ventilation. Now, we fully acknowledge that this issue is the most prevalent to downtown Toronto and less of a problem in other, more residential areas. But residential areas of Toronto have their own set of challenges that we will talk about in our future videos. So make sure to subscribe not to miss it. We will just say that residential areas don't have the same perks to offer as living downtown does. But the prices, sadly, aren't much lower than downtown. So our biggest issue is price versus quality of life.
Something is really going on in Toronto. I don't know, maybe the COVID lockdowns have driven people crazy, or maybe the COVID itself has turned people into zombies, but the news reports are getting scary. The reports of assaults in public transit or on the streets have increased substantially recently. Every week there is a report about some crazy white guy who randomly slashes people with a blade on the street, or a woman who pushes people on the metro rails, or teenagers beating the homeless person to death, or a tenant who decides to shoot everyone on his condo board. This stuff is crazy! While Anastasia works from home, I do commute to work a couple of times a week, and it's unsettling boarding a streetcar or walking down the street in downtown these days. I have to be alert all the time, otherwise, who knows what might happen.
We like to drive. Even though we live downtown Toronto, driving is our primary mode of transportation for groceries, running errands, or going out. It's our choice, and it's more convenient and safer, especially after hearing all these crazy stories in public transit. Even if I get stuck in traffic, at least I'm stuck in my own car, in my own space, and don't have a stranger breathing down my neck in an overcrowded bus. Traffic in Toronto is something else. We usually drive to Montreal 2 to 3 times a year. We also like to explore nearby cities and go camping, so we actually get out of the city quite often. And one thing that we realize is that we never have ever experienced no traffic as we enter Toronto. There's always traffic the closer you get to Toronto. No matter the day or time of the day, there's always traffic, which adds an extra 30 to 50 minutes to your GPS. When I get out of the city, there's traffic. When I get back into the city, there's traffic.
Having spoken about heavy traffic and safety, it becomes clear why car insurance in Toronto is so high. A bigger city means bigger statistical risk factors. Densely populated areas are more prone to car accidents, simply because there are more people walking, biking, and driving at the same time. Winter tires are also not mandatory in Ontario, but it doesn't mean that it never snows in Toronto. So things become extra dangerous when the snow falls, because some aren't even prepared for or skilled in winter driving. Moreover, the whole city stops during a heavy snowfall, which is ridiculous for a Nordic country like Canada. Public transit is not working, traffic jams become horrible, and roads take a while to get cleared. Anyways, going back to the topic of high insurance. If you're new to Canada and you don't have driving experience yet, your monthly insurance can reach $400. Anastasia and I share a car and insurance costs and pay $200 a month. And as the cost of house building is going up with inflation and cost of materials, the home insurance keeps going up as well. If you're renting a one-bedroom apartment, for example, expect to pay about $30 per month for your insurance.
According to Statistics Canada, Toronto saw nearly 100,000 people leave the area, with 78% choosing to settle in other parts of the province this year.
Yes, for sure, there will be things that we will miss about Toronto, but it can easily be fixed if we take a trip to the city. We'll miss our friends the most. But who knows, maybe they will follow our example one day and move too.
Are you thinking about moving out of Toronto? Or maybe you've already left? Let us know in the comments below why you moved away and where you live now. How is it? Do you regret your choice?
In the future videos, we will share a little more details about our future plans, so please gently tap the like button below and subscribe to our channel to stay tuned on our future journey.
And huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much.
And we will see you in the next video.
Take care.
Bye!